Welcome to the Movie Academy. Today I'll show you a Japanese drama series from 2022 called Fishbowl Wives. Based on manga series by Kurosawa R, the story centers around 6 different women who live in the same luxury apartment building. All of them live in unhappy marriages and cross the line into infidelity. I divided this drama series into 4 parts. Let's dive into part 2 and focus on the lunchbox wife and the chaperone wife. Before that, don't forget to hit the subscribe, like, and notification buttons. Previously, the main character's fishbowl wife, Sakura, stays in a goldfish shop to avoid her violent husband, Takuya. The goldfish shop owner, Haruto, takes care of her, and they have sex. You may watch the Fishbowl Wives Part 1 for the previous plot. The lunchbox wife, Noriko, an excellently skilled home chef with extensive culinary knowledge, enjoys making bento for her husband every day. She lives in room 1605, on the same floor as the outsourcing wife. Noriko and Taro have been married for 8 years, wanting a kid. But they can't get sexually aroused. Suda is a single young man living alone and Taro's junior colleague. Suda enjoys eating delicious food, but he doesn't cook, and he only buys lunch in a convenience store. During lunchtime, Suda envies Taro having well-made bento every day. So, Taro shares Spanish mackerel with him. After tasting that, Suda praises his wife as a good cook. Suddenly, Taro asks Suda, "Do you want to fuck my wife?" Suda is shocked and rejects his request. At the lavatory, Taro explains to Suda that he doesn't get aroused easily because of their 8-year marriage. Since they recently want a baby, he asks Suda for help. Besides, Taro realizes his odd fetish, seeing his wife and another man's interaction. That makes him exciting. Suda is the one who is single in their department, so Taro thinks that he is an appropriate person. Suda firmly refuses him as he believes his wife won't do so either and thinks that is ridiculous. Then, Taro begs him to help them get through their crisis. Suda replies that he has to hear his wife, Noriko, thought before agreeing. Taro invites Suda to have dinner with Noriko at home. Noriko already made a delicious dinner meal. Besides, Suda appreciates Noriko's culinary skills. He keeps praising her when he is eating the food she cooked. Meanwhile, Taro recalls and says that they went to Ideal on the company family trip. The restaurant only forgot Suda's meal order. So, Noriko shared her half-eaten grilled eel on rice with Suda. Watching another man eat her half-eaten food makes Taro incredibly exciting. Taro had exciting sex with his wife that night. Noriko looks at Suda and feels uncomfortable and embarrassed while Taro says that matters. Before the dinner, Taro has told Noriko that she will have intimate interaction with Suda. So, Taro requests them to hold hands. Noriko attempts to hold Suda's hand. Suda instinctively evades her hand. Taro expresses that he got a bit pissed off but requests them to clasp each other by hands like a lover. She reluctantly holds Suda's hand again. Then, Taro urges them to kiss each other. She feels likely to cry and follow his requests. However, Suda stops that as he thinks she doesn't want that. But Taro leaves them alone for a moment and eavesdrops on their conversation behind the living room to let Suda flirts with his wife. Suda asks Noriko to speak up if she feels uncomfortable with that. She explains that her husband won't listen to people's opinions. Taro was her senior in college, confessed to her and persistently chased her. If she doesn't date him, he will die. Because of that, an unconfident Noriko realizes that someone needs and loves her in this world. She likes to feel needed by someone. So, Noriko is submissive and agrees to fulfill Taro's odd fetish. She thinks that she is rather plain without any redeeming quality. Suda tells Noriko that he thinks she is fantastic rather than simple. At that moment, Taro comes out and asks Suda to leave his house. Because of hearing his wife talk with another man, Taro feels excited and immediately has sex with Noriko. Noriko consults the fortune teller, Mei's advice about her husband's sexual fetishes in the following days. Mei encourages her to be freer. Afterwards, Noriko and Suda partake in Taro's sexual fetishes again. Taro observes and requests Suda caress his wife. She sidesteps Suda's first kiss, but Taro forces them to kiss. Suda flirtatiously touches her body, caressing her legs while Taro watches. Once Taro feels excited, he'll stop Suda and Noriko's key moment. Taro brings his wife to the room and makes love with Noriko instantly. That makes Suda a bit mad about that. As time passes, Noriko thinks of Suda rather than her husband and has sexual fantasies about Suda. Also, she discovers her pleasure in watching Suda happily eat her made food. Meanwhile, her husband calls her, telling her that he forgets to bring Suda's and his bento. Since Suda takes sick leave, he asks her only take his bento to his company. Learning Suda is ill from his husband, she even brings her made bento to Suda's house after delivering her husband's bento. Suda says he doesn't have a cold and invites her to get inside his apartment. Having praised her bento, he apologizes to her for listening to her husband's unusual requests without caring about her feeling. He says he won't visit their place anymore. Then, Noriko tells him that she gets aroused somehow whenever she sees him eating the food she prepared. So, that is better to end this unusual relationship. If not, she won't be able to stop herself. Staring his eyes, she suddenly leans over and kisses his lip. He involuntarily kisses her back. She tells him that she has only ever had sex with her husband. Afterwards, they have passionate sex. She promises to carry on making him a bento and keeps the relationship with him. Jumping back to the main character's fishbowl wife, as mentioned previously, Sakura stays in Haruto's goldfish shop and gets along with Haruto to avoid her husband, Takuya. Also, Takuya learns about that. When Takuya arrives at the goldfish shop, he doesn't talk about that. But he implies and says to Haruto that he is looking for a fish, calling Sakura the same as his wife's name. He wants to buy that fish and take it home. From his provocative glance and talk, Haruto recognizes that Takuya is Sakura's husband. Then, Haruto packs a goldfish for him, and Takuya leaves the shop. Sakura is on the rooftop and notices Takuya coming out of the shop. Sakura asks Haruto why he let him buy a goldfish. She is worried that Takuya won't take care of it. Haruto misunderstands her meaning and thinks that she is worried about him. He asks her to go home if she wants to. Afterwards, Haruto goes out to deliver a tank to the customer. Haruto's younger sister Ran knows that her brother dates a married woman, Sakura. Ran shows up at the goldfish shop and asks Sakura to break up with her brother. Ran points out that Sakura is old and a married woman, and she thinks that her brother deserves another better woman. Having heard that, Sakura has deep thinking. She heads home, takes back the goldfish Takuya bought and returns the wedding ring to Takuya. Then, she goes back to the goldfish shop and decides to officially make a relationship with Haruto. On the flip side, Seiya, the chaperone wife, resides in room 301. Seiya was an energetic runner and used to run track before. She encouraged her beloved husband Sauda to run with her together. In the beginning, Sauda couldn't even follow Seiya as she ran so fast. She would wait for him and encourage him to keep up together no matter what. They bought a new apartment in the luxury building as time went by. Sauda asks Seiya to quit her job and become a housewife. So, he will concentrate on work and make plenty of money. Then, Sauda wants to express her thought. But, since he has a meeting in the morning, he immediately leaves the house and doesn't listen to what she says. Moreover, Sauda is gradually running faster than her. One day, Seiya feels unwell while they are running together. Sauda doesn't care about her and asks her to head back. Leaving unwell Seiya on the way, he runs on his way. They have been drifting apart after that day. Seiya thinks that she doesn't belong to the upper-class world, so that she won't socialize with other neighbors. Even though the neighbors invite her to join the tea gathering, she makes an excuse and rejects their invitation. Seiya slowly becomes an unenergetic and depressed person. Seiya doesn't run with him anymore, loses her life purpose, spends the day lying around the couch, and drinks beers. Also, Sauda asks her to sleep on the bed, but she replies and asks him to buy shochu highball for her. She prefers to sleep on the couch rather than with her husband on the bed. One night, receiving a call from the marathon club, a couple invites his wife and him to join the marathon camp. Sauda tells Seiya that he will bring her along to the camp tomorrow. Seiya replies that she never said she would go and rejects participating in the camp. As he thinks that she always locks herself in the house all day, he encourages her to run again. In contrast, she argues that Sauda doesn't understand what she wants. He asks her why she becomes like that and what is she dissatisfied with within her living. He has worked so hard for her, bought the condo, and provided her with an excellent quality of living. He repeatedly asks her why she has become like this now. She replies that they both changed, and she leaves the house. Seiya feels upset and lays on the rock, thinking of the past with Sauda. Suddenly, the fishbowl wife's husband, Takuya, bumps into Seiya. Takuya asks her what's going on. Seiya tells him that she doesn't want to go home. Then, Takuya lets her stay at his apartment that night. On the following morning, he runs his finger through her hair. As his wife Sakura is cheating on him, he feels lonely and understands her painful situation. So, he asks her to come over to his apartment again, anytime. After heading back home, she finds that Sauda doesn't care about where she was last night and even joins the marathon camp individually. Then, Seiya tried to call him back, but he missed her call. Seiya feels that Sauda only cares about himself rather than her. Eventually, she dresses up and heads to Sakura's husband, Takuya's apartment. Takuya caresses her and kisses her. Sauda's returning call interrupts them while they start to have sex. Seiya answers Sauda's phone call. Sauda apologizes to Seiya and says he is so stupid to ignore her feeling. He realized that he was going a little too fast, forgot to wait for her and run together. Having listened to that, Seiya feels touched and leaves Takuya's house. She starts to run for finding Sauda. Sauda. Meanwhile, Sauda leaves the camp and he runs back home to her. In the end, they meet each other. Saya tells Sauda that she doesn't have to live in a tower condo and doesn't need much money. All she needs is his companion. She wants to be with him more. Sauda understands her thoughts and promises not to leave her alone anymore. They finally hug each other tightly. What happened next? Stay tuned for Fishbowl Wives Part 3. Leave the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification so you won't miss out on any spoilers. See you in the next video.